Well, despite the Invasion Day rallies that tried to hog the limelight today, there were some sights and words that I thought were worth noting at the start of the program. And if some of the protesters had got up a little bit earlier and bothered to look around, especially if they were in Sydney near the harbour, they would have seen some very respectful efforts to reflect Indigenous culture in so many cities and towns, not just Sydney. Now, I had a very early start today with another television commitment, and I got to see this myself. For the first time ever, just before dawn, the sails of the Sydney's Opera House were lit up with the creation of Indigenous art. How good is that? It was brilliant. The colours, I was told, represented our landscape and coastline. The circle markings depict 250 plus Aboriginal languages, the linear marks, the 200 nationalities that call Australia home. How good is that? And at the same time, to go over a little further towards Mrs Macquarie's chair, the traditional Sydney smoking ceremony was held as the sun rose nearby, heralding a cleansing of bad spirits at the start of the day. Now, I know there seems to be a growing mindset to change the date of Australia Day, and we dealt with that in detail on the show last night. Emeritus Professor Ross Fitzgerald prefers January the 1st because in 1901, on that day, we became an Australian nation. But after reflecting on what he had to say last night and hearing most of the official ceremonies around Australia today, which constantly referenced what First Nations people went through in the early days of the settlement, I came to a different conclusion. I'm bouncing between opinions here on this. Maybe this is the perfect day for Australia Day after all, because it does force us to recognise that dark chapter in our history that is, I guess, overemphasised on a day like today, but needs to be recognised. Everyone from the Prime Minister to all the premiers felt duty-bound today to raise it.
But as we come here to acknowledge and celebrate these freedoms, we must also recognise, as a mature and decent nation, that today is a day that causes pain for some of our First Nations people. We cannot and should never deny any aspect of our history or the key milestones that have made us the nation we are today. As we raise the Aboriginal flag alongside the flag of Australia, it renews my hope that each passing Australia Day brings us closer to being truly one mob.
See, let's say we moved it to January the 1st and had a double public holiday for Australia Day and New Year's Day, which we could easily do. It wouldn't take much. Would we have as much emphasis on January the 1st on the brutality suffered by Indigenous people? Probably not. And there'd be no pressure from Invasion Day advocates for the politicians to do what Gladys Berejiklian did today and what the Prime Minister did today. So maybe the calls for this day to be shifted is one of those cases, be careful what you wish for. What January the 26th guarantees is a focus on the whole, I guess, three-tiered gamut of our history. The black history, the black and white history, and then the massive influx of new arrivals as well. We do all of that in the one day. And that was something else worth noting about what I saw today, the absolute glee on the faces of those people who starred in their citizenship ceremonies. Have a look.
Feels amazing. We feel really proud, blessed to be here.
It's just an amazing country, and it feels like home too.
How will you be celebrating today?
With my friends and my kids, and have a nice barbecue.
Nice, very Australian.
Yes, I'm Australian now, so I've just had to follow the customs.
That's the third tier. That's what the day's about as well, the joy of becoming a citizen in the world's greatest nation by far. If only those that want to complain and whinge about their lot could talk to some of those migrants, many of whom have pulled themselves out of poverty, out of persecution, to be an Australian, they might appreciate better what they have. And if only those same people could follow the words of the pledge of affirmation that we heard many times today, I think we'd all be better off.
As an Australian citizen, I affirm my loyalty to Australia and its people, whose democratic beliefs I share, whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I uphold and obey.
That should be our mission statement, not just for new migrants. If we could all stick to that, imagine how united we'd be. Imagine what we could achieve together. And finally, for the first time on Australia Day, on the top of the arch of the Harbour Bridge today, I saw two flags, the Aboriginal and Australian flags. And on a day when in 1788 black and white first came together to create this amazing first world country, I thought it looked just right today. And that's why January the 26th, for mine, is still just right.